I'm with Robert E. Mason and Associates, the Steam Solutions team. And we're here today to talk a little bit about the difference between what is saturated steam and superheated steam. Starting off with, we want to kind of go back to steam basics and saturated steam. And here, what we're doing is we're taking water and we're going to turn it into a gas that we're going to use in our process for heating. So if we take water at 32 degrees and we're like boiling water on a pot on a stove, at 32 degrees, we have to add 180 BTUs of sensible heat. That's the first part of it, that we're going to bring it up to 212 degrees. And then you're going to start seeing, if you got the pot of water, you're going to start seeing it boil or bubble a little bit. And that's where it wants to get right to that point to let its energy go and become a gas and expand. So if we use in a kettle, you can start seeing that as we hit that, you have water and you have gas, and it's starting to come out, and that's what we call a water vapor. That's not steam, that's a water vapor. Now what we're doing is we're adding more heat, which we call latent heat. And we'll have to add another 970 BTUs of latent heat, and that latent heat is the energy in that steam that we use for production, for heat transfer. But now we get to what's called dry saturated steam. Saturated does not mean water. Saturated means energy. So we have dry energy steam. That's energy we're using. And at this point, we can start using that for heat transfer. But we're not going to use a 0 PSI. We're going to use 100 PSI, or we're going to use something different. And here, we're going to take it up to 100 PSI. And what we want to do is at 32 degrees is we want to add 309 BTUs of sensible heat. Now we're at the water. We're going to start boiling. We're going to add another 180 BTUs to get it to be the saturated steam. Saturated steam is one of the most common steams that we use in the marketplace today. Another way of looking at it is if you have your chart, you can see based on the PSI, your steam temperature. And the thing about saturated steam, and let's keep that in mind, saturated steam, if you know the pressure, you know the temperature. If you know the temperature, you know the pressure. It gives you your sensible heat. That's the difference of where we're going to transfer from water to start it to steam. Our latent heat, the heat that we have to use for heat transfer, the total amount of heat, and the size of the particles. Now for superheat steam, we're going to continue with that, but what we want to do in superheat is not in the boiler, because if we add more heat in the boiler without relieving it, then we're going to start increasing the pressure. So we want to add heat afterwards, that we add more heat to make sure that all those vapors are dry, and we create what's called superheat. So at 150 PSI, which is normally 366 degrees, I can have 150 PSI at 400 degrees. And now I know I have no water vapors in there whatsoever. And we use this for turbine, running a turbine, other applications within the process. The other thing that we have to consider is that anytime we reduce it with a control valve from one pressure to a low pressure, we have superheated steam. We have to understand, is that superheat going to hurt our process, burn our process, or are we good with that process? And we'll cover superheat for heating in a different episode. But if you have any questions, please contact R.E. Mason. If you'd like for us to come out, let us know, and someone from our STEAM team will be more than happy to come to your facility.